Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hardworking Man Podcast. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Heath, and Happy New Year, everybody, because by the time this airs, it's going to be 2024. So hopefully everyone's off to a great start and a great year ahead of us.
That's right. We had a great Christmas celebration with our kids home and going to have a good New Year's, we're hoping. But no resolutions.
They're all good, right? They're all good.
No resolutions. I do not do New Year's resolutions. Do you?
No.
No.
We've only been together like 25 years.
Well, I don't
Have
know
you
what
ever
year.
heard of me doing a New
But
Year's
you
resolution?
Might mentally think you might. I mean, you have a lot of plans. So
Well, I always have plans. It's not something new for the new year.
No, I don't do resolutions because I think it's just silly. But I think goal setting is fine. Just why does it have to be on some arbitrary date? It doesn't. And I've actually gotten down this whole conspiracy theory.
Oh, geez. Here
about how we celebrate New Year January 1st is actually not what the calendar New Year is supposed to be. That over time, these ancient rulers have changed the dates on the calendar. It's supposed to be a 28-day cycle, and the months are supposed to be 28 days. Now we have some 30, 31, so and it makes sense.
Month ruiners. Who are the month ruiners?
To me, because who in the world, like, winter is the season for like rest, renewal. It's when all of nature goes dormant and waits to regrowth. When do they do that? In the spring. So I personally feel like if instead of setting New Year's resolutions and goals for January 1st, enjoy the season of rest. It's warm soup season, resting, read books, have do your nice. Oh my gosh, why are you gonna laugh at everything I say?
Would you?
And then come March, whenever the buds on the tree start growing, get to work because you're ready. You're ready
March
to do
year
it.
resolution.
It's a March year. That's how I feel. Like, once the sun starts coming out again, I am now rejuvenated. I am ready to go. It's no wonder everybody fails their resolutions of dieting and exercise and any of that, because your body doesn't want to. Your body is in a season of rest and renewal. So don't feel bad if you don't stick to resolutions. Start them in March when spring is starting to bud.
Yeah, and I don't even know what to say following that.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
Oh, my goodness.
Do you know what TED Talks are?
No, I don't. But that was a long thing about conspiracy theories
it
that I
wasn't
don't
a
get into.
conspiracy theory.
You started out by saying it was.
Well, it stems from that. People think that's, it's been a conspiracy theory to set off our internal clock cycle. I don't buy into that.
Why would people want to mess us up? They want us to succeed.
I don't know. I don't buy into all of that, but I do feel like there's some truth to that. Like, you don't really feel like tackling things, or, you get a little pump in your...
Well, also, we talk about winter. I don't know that everything goes dormant everywhere, right? Like, we live in Michigan, so yes, it does here, but does it down south? I don't know. I've never really been down south in the winter. I don't know what happens
down south in the winter
That would sort of throw off the whole theory.
Well,
no?
You know what? It only applies to me.
It only applies if you live in one of the states where it does get cold and gloomy in the winter, which Michigan's one of them. So that's what we're basing it
Florida's
off from.
been chilly with not a lot of sun. They have their seasons, their time. It's just not as cold.
But definitely, there is such a thing as the winter blues here in Michigan and any of the Midwest states, the northern states, like...
Seasonal depression is real.
Yeah, the days are shorter. You can't get as much done. It's sometimes less enjoyable to be outside when it's nasty out and whatever. And I think being outside is what makes people happy. That's why on Hardworking Man, we work outside a lot, and we don't do like kitchen remodel videos and stuff.
Right. Even though winter would be a great time to do interior work. So we talk about seasonal depression here, and they say if you do physical exercise or get out and move, it is as effective as taking, 30 minutes of movement is as effective as taking a Xanax. Is that the antidepressant?
I should be the happiest guy on the planet then, because I never stop moving.
So there is something to getting outside and being outside with the fresh air in the winter and having... even if it's cold, you can bundle up. I always, every winter, say, I'm going to get out and do more, but then I don't ever want to.
Once I get moving, I have to unbundle because I get hot
You do.
fast.
He's out in a t-shirt the other day. But it's, part of having the channel. It forces me to go outside and do some work and, helps my mood, I'm sure, immensely.
Right. But talking about being outside and working, like the more active you are, I feel like the more chances there are for things to go wrong. And let's face it, stuff goes wrong. We never know what's going to happen when you leave, even when you're still at home. But when you leave home for the day, you don't know what that day has in store for you or what day is going to be the last one you get to have. You know? I mean, it sounds like a bad thing to say, but
very ominous.
We all get one eventually.
Well, I always tease you that you have 9 lives.
And I've used them all up.
You used them all. It's like a near-death experience every time Heath walks out of the house.
Time.
Every time you get in a car, I feel like
No, please. You guys talk about my driving like it's bad, and I save your lives on a regular basis.
Because you weren't paying attention in the first place.
No, the other guys aren't paying attention.
You've had a few mishaps over the years.
Nothing major.
Thankfully nothing major.
Because of my expert driving skills and getting us out of danger.
Well, not even that, but like out cutting trees or... you've had some things go wrong.
Well, I'm very active, so obviously I have more chances of stuff to happen. And we talk about this sometimes, and we were like, you know what? All the different things that you've had happen that are so close to changing your life forever, but somehow don't end up doing it. Like, it's amazing how close I think a lot of us come on a fairly regular basis to having your life change forever, just by the smallest thing, whether it be driving, whether it be playing a game in a swimming pool, which was like probably one of my first near-death experiences ever. When I was just a little kid, we had one of the little 3-foot deep swimming pools. It was amazing because, if you've watched the channel, follow us, we didn't have a whole lot, but our parents saved up and got us one of the little swimming pools, so in the summer we could go out and swim. Well, we're very competitive as a family. We always have been, we always will be. So we would play a game where we'd all get on one side and take golf balls, and you throw them to the other side of the pool, and on your mark, get set, go. Everyone dives and gets as many balls as you can, and whoever gets the most wins that round. Well, I was playing with a neighbor kid who was bigger than me, and he didn't like losing. So after I beat him enough times in a row, his answer was, you know what? If he's going to keep beating me, I'll just hold him underwater. So he just grabbed a hold of me and just held me under to the point that I can remember, like when this stuff happens a lot of times, I feel like everything goes in slow motion. And I remember like starting breathing in water instead of air. And then finally, for whatever reason, he changed his mind and I came up for air, just spitting out water, coughing and gagging, got out of the pool. He got kicked out of the pool, wasn't allowed to swim with us anymore. But like just that moment in time, had it been for a few more seconds or minutes or whatever, if he just didn't change his mind, that could have been it. There'd never be a hardworking man. There'd never be a Heath and Rachel or our amazing kids. Just from a golf ball diving competition. Like, you never know what it's going to be.
No. Well, I remember one time, I don't know how old you were. I think we had just started dating. So early 20s or,
Well, I would have been 18 then.
Well, but I don't think it was that early. Your mom had moved. It doesn't matter. But your brother has a love for dogs and had a Rottweiler. And this Rottweiler wasn't very socialized. He kept it on a chain out in the yard. And your mom didn't like it. Like, wasn't allowed in the house, kind of a thing. And you went outside. Do you remember why you went out there?
Well, my brother was trying to put a training shock collar on the dog. And this was before the modern day technology one. So this was an early one my dad bought at a garage sale. And it was a brick. And you had a brick for a controller that you had to charge up. And it didn't last long at all. So he was trying to get that collar on the dog, and the dog wasn't minding him. And I thought, you know what? I'll go help my brother. You need to show a dog who's in charge, who's in control.
So you, not the owner, decided to show it who's boss.
And I wasn't a big guy. I was probably 115 or 120 pounds, and I went out and grabbed this Rottweiler by the collar and just held it there so my brother could get the collar on. Well, I thought part of showing that Rottweiler who was boss was just staring it in the eyes so it knew I wasn't afraid of it. Unbeknownst to me, that's a challenge to a dog. And my mom felt uncomfortable.
She was watching. We were in the house watching from the window, and your mom didn't like it. So she grabbed the controller to this thing just in case. She just had a feeling she should have a hold of it. And then you let go of the dog, and you guys go walking to go back into the garage, and that dog turned and like lunged at your neck. Yes. And your mom went, ah! And like pushed the button. And got that dog at like the right second. You like felt the teeth Chomping at your face.
As soon as I let go of the collar. And again, everything went into slow motion. Like that Rottweiler that was definitely stronger than me and bigger just came for my throat. And I can remember seeing the teeth chomping, and it was coming for my neck. That's what dogs do. And when my mom hit that button, I remember that dog, yip, and pulled back, and I just... Save yourself. I left my brother for dead. I was out of there. I got in the house, and that was the only charge that was left in that thing. It was a surface charge, what they call on batteries. It worked one time and one time only. So had we needed another one, it wasn't there. And luckily, my mom had an uneasy feeling and saved my life again.
Yes. No, well, you've had some scary experiences when you very first were learning how to fell a tree.
I'm still learning, but yes, when I very first started
learning, and we lived in the city, we had like a half an acre lot that was all fenced in, and we had a bunch of dead ash trees, and you were like, I can cut these down.
I didn't realize felling trees or cutting trees, tree work was dangerous because I didn't grow up around it. So hopefully through my failures and my learning, I'm able to help others because, you know, I talk to people at work. They're like, hey, cutting this tree down, this or that. And I explain to them, you know, the dangers, what can happen if you don't know what you're doing, what can happen if you do know what you're doing, just everything involved. Because trust me, when I started cutting trees, I didn't even really think you could get hurt bad when truthfully, it can all end in a split second. And that happened to my dad later on. He had his neck broken in what is just a freak accident to deal with a tree that fell down on a path. So I like to be able to share with others some of my experiences to save them from the almost close calls I've had. And what she's referring to, cutting these ash trees down, was I'm not afraid of a lot. I'm not afraid of much. And luckily with YouTube, I've learned a ton from other channels, from people that leave comments, everything, which is making me safer and helping to save my body with how I do things. But not being afraid of a lot can be a blessing and a curse. So I had a giant ash tree, probably 4 feet in diameter at the base, and it split off into 3. And I had to climb up there. It was dead, but there was no place to drop this thing in our fenced-in backyard. So I climb up there, use a ladder. That'll tell you right there, I didn't really know what I was doing. When you use ladders to fell trees, bad things happen. Used the ladder, climbed up there. It wasn't near tall enough. Used my climbing sticks from deer hunting, strapped those on, got even higher. I'd seen, not really videos at that time, but somehow seen of, you tie your chainsaw to a rope in case you drop it. So I did that, and I had a safety belt on, and the safety belt went around me and the tree. It was just a belt for the climbing gaffs that I had that I wasn't using. And so when I got up there, I dropped the first one, and it went okay. I notched the back, cut it, fell, hit the fence, smashed the fence. Next one, same thing, notched it, cut it, fell, everything was good. Well, the third one, it was probably 18 to 20 inches in diameter, but it was leaning hard to where I needed it to go. So I thought, well, this one's going to be the easiest. I'm just going to cut it and it's going to fall off. Well, that isn't what happened. I cut this tree without a notch on the front, not knowing anything of what I'm doing, and it had turned into a giant lever and crushed me to the tree. I dropped the saw, which luckily was tied to the rope, but now I'm 30 feet up in the air, pinned to this tree with a giant lever of a branch, which was the size of a tree, just crushing me. The air left my body. And I just thought to myself, all right, well, this is either going to end in breaking my back and suffocating me, it's going to break my safety strap, and I'm going to fall 30 feet to the ground. And that's pretty much where I was at. I didn't have anything I could do to save myself, and there was so much pressure on me that my climbing stick that I was on actually bent through my body, and when it bent, it slid. And that stick sliding, just that one little thing saved my life, because that stick slid, and when it slid, my safety belt slid, and that branch or tree was allowed to kick up and out and fell, and I was left there strapped to the tree and survived. I had sore knees, I had a sore back, I was sore, but I was alive. And it was just the smallest thing of luckily that climbing stick bending. And you just never know. Later on, in the same project, working all day, cutting down another tree that was close to the house. This was a maple tree, but it was leaned towards the neighbors. I had a little Kubota BX tractor, and I wanted to pull it, because you can pull a tree down with a tractor, right? Which, it's really a lawn tractor or a garden tractor, but I was like, I want to get as much weight off the backside as I could. So I've been out working all day, cutting up these ash trees, and I get on the top of my A-frame ladder, 15-foot Fisker's pole saw, cutting branches off from the backside that leaned over the power line to our house so I could pull it away from it. And it cut through sooner than I thought. The saw fell because I was tired and weak, standing on the top of an A-frame ladder, and hit the main power line to our house. And it exploded.
Yeah. Well, so I'm in the house with all the kids. This is nighttime. And there was a huge flash, which you can see because it's night, and loud noise. And I open up the slider. I'm like, what the heck happened? And I can't see him. And I walk out on the deck, and there he is on the ground.
I was blinded by the light. Luckily, not electrocuted, but just the explosion and the blinding of the ball of fire. I flew off the ladder, didn't know when I was going to hit the ground. So I again jammed my back, and I was laying there like, not realizing what happened, but knowing what happened, and it had melted the blade on my saw. Like, luckily, that was it. That's all that happened. It melted the blade on my saw. I hit the ground from however tall my ladder was, about 8-10 feet, and I was okay. But again, something so trivial, not knowing what I was doing, but not afraid to try, almost cost me.
Yeah, so I guess the lesson here is educate yourself before you do something dangerous.
But you just never know, because some of this stuff was my fault. A lot of it was my fault.
Most everything is your fault.
But some of it's not, and you could just walk out the door and never come home. So don't take advantage of any day. Treat every day as if it's your last. I know people say that all the time, and none of us do it until we have one of these, and then we change for a little bit and we don't. But I try not to take any day for granted. I try not to ever leave a day being angry or being mad or having something I would regret if I didn't get another day to fix it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could have a 5-hour-long podcast if we talked about all of your experiences, because you really do silly things like
I've got a whole list of
flipping
them.
the tractor off the trailer when you were unloading it.
I didn't
to do
flip
a side
it, I
job.
saved it because I stay cool, calm, and collected.
I mean, we have a funny short of you flipping off the...
Flipping out of a trailer. Landed on my feet.
Luckily. I mean, you could just... I mean, something like that, though, you could just land wrong and it's over. Like, I see videos of people, like, pulling kids behind four-wheelers or sleds, like, sled, I mean snowmobile, and pulling them in the snow, sledding. Well, when our kids were young, there was a local family where they hit a rock, and the kid had to have major brain surgery, busted his skull, brain damaged.
Right, just from something we all do not thinking about.
No, so, I mean, starting the year off with a positive note.
Don't take any day for granted.
Don't take any day
Be
for granted.
Be safe out there.
Yeah.
Going back to my dad, his thing was a freak accident. I get on my dad all the time because, again, over the years I've learned, and I've done much more chainsaw work and stuff than my dad. And I'm like, Dad, you need chaps, you need a helmet, you need some safety gear. And
your dad does not do any safety.
He doesn't.
Sight and guns without ear protection.
When I was a kid, like, he doesn't do it.
No safety concerns.
A few years ago, a tree fell on the path to his tree stand, so he took one of his chainsaws. He's always bragging about his garage sale chainsaw finds and telling me they're more powerful than mine and better than mine. And he goes out there, just cuts this tree up into chunks and drags it out of the way. Well, the part of the treetop, he rolled up onto the brush. He just wanted out of the way so he could get to his tree stand. He was then standing there watching the sand erode on the river bottom that runs through his property. And that tree had rolled back off the brush and essentially turned one of the branches into a huge lever and smacked him in the back of the head. Knocked him unconscious for who knows how long, because he came back to and he was standing there again, doesn't realize he was knocked down, doesn't realize he was knocked out, has no idea what happened. And the back of his head hurt. He reaches, touches the back of his head, and his hand's covered in blood. And he realizes, man, I'm in a lot of pain. Something isn't right. He goes, puts his chainsaw away, gets everything taken care of, calls his wife, and is like, hey, I need you to come pick me up. Something happened. I don't know what. She takes him to the hospital. They immediately start panicking. They thought someone hit him in the back of the head with a baseball bat, and he ended up with a broken neck in a halo for 9 months. They said a few centimeters over, and it would have killed him instantly. He never would have known it. And to this day, he says he wasn't knocked unconscious, which there's no... He just was standing there, and his head hurt, and it was all bloody, and his neck was broken. But nothing ever happened, if you ask him. But just another freak
like
thing.
That is scary.
You don't know what's coming. And I've got a list here. I could go on for hours talking about them. But I think basically we got our point across. We've shared some of the stories. And just, we talk about this all the time. You never know. In my job, in my career field, it can turn bad in a second, in an instant. And then in my hobby, out doing wood, doing stuff, living life.
When you live life, things are going to happen.
Hunting, tree stand accidents, every year they happen to people. Like, it's just all part of it. But I'm not going to sit at home in a bubble wrap life, because that's not a life at all. I'm going to stay out doing things, try to be safer, learn as I go, which we all do. But let us know in the comments, like, what are some close calls you've had?
Yeah.
What are some things that you didn't necessarily think were
What have you
dangerous
learned?
that
Share your wisdom
could
with
have
us.
or have changed your life forever? Because this is how we all learn. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from others' mistakes. And believe me, I've made a lot, and I've got a lot left to make, hopefully. And hopefully I can share them with you guys and save you from making some of the same mistakes I did. Don't stare big, powerful dogs in the eyes.
No.
Don't cut trees if you have absolutely no idea what you're doing.
Oh,
Like, on and on and on. Use safety equipment when you're hunting. I used to sit up in tree stands, in homemade rickety tree stands 20 feet off the ground with no safety thing, fall asleep, take naps, never anything happen. And like I said, every year
you hear of hunting accidents from
I
men
know
falling out of
people
tree stands
personally
all the time.
who have broke their backs, been killed, severe damage to limbs falling out of tree stands. And we're safer, we're better at it, we use lifelines, we use safety harnesses.
Yeah.
It can all change in an instant. Forgetting your harness one time cost a guy a broken back. Wore one every single day, and the one day he forgot it, he passed out, fell out of his tree stand, and broke his back. Like, you just never know.
No.
Life can change in an instant.
I like to call myself the safety monitor. I always have to.
She does. I try to keep her engaged in her job.
I have a little more sense of
I
danger.
don't have that switch. I
have a major danger sensor, and he has none. So
I think I have one. I just ignore it. Like, it'll go off, and I'm like, man, this could end bad. Let's see if it does.
I'm always like, don't do that. I am not taking you to the ER.
She would, though.
So I just leave them. I tell my kids that too when they're going to do dumb stuff. I'm like, I'm not taking you to the doctor. You better check what you're doing. They're like, fair enough.
I really, though, out of all the things I've done, I don't know that I've ever ended up in the hospital from, outside of a broken bone in a sporting incident or torn tendon or concussion, stuff like that. From all these things that could have changed my life forever.
People do that.
I've never ended up in a hospital, ever a doctor visit, nothing.
I mean, you've been very fortunate. God's been looking after you, I think all these years.
Yes, absolutely. And when everything slows down, because all these things that I have written down are the things I've talked about. Like I said, it's slow motion. Does it go slow motion for you guys when stuff like this happens? Like, to me, everything slows down, and I'm able to do what I need to do to, if there's something I can do to save the situation, if that makes sense.
All right. So on that note, we hope you all have a great start to your 2024, and we will be seeing you next week.
And have a safe and productive 2024. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, guys. And like Rachel said, have a great week. Have a great year.